Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Buxbaum, and I'm the co-founder of a Austin area distiller, a new one called Austin Craft Spirits Company. And we've introduced a new product called Austin 101 Light Whiskey. Pour it into a glass and let it breathe for a minute. Let the aromas develop in the glass. Now you can do that in a whiskey glass, in a brandy snifter, in a wine glass, stemless or not. Just let it sit it aside for a couple of moments for the aromas to develop. So now I want to talk for a little bit about whiskeys and what whiskeys are. If you go into a store and you look down the shelf, you'll see whiskeys from around the world, and you'll see a large section of American whiskeys. In the American whiskey section, you'll see a few varieties. Largely, you'll see bourbon, you'll see rye whiskey, and you may see other whiskeys. And hopefully, someday, soon, you'll be seeing light whiskey as well. Bourbon and straight rye whiskeys are they're made a certain way in a very constrained manner by law. To be called a bourbon or rye, the whiskey has to be made in America, has to be made from grain, and it has to be distilled to no higher than 80% pure alcohol, which is 160 proof. In fact, most bourbons and ryes are distilled to a much lower purity than that in order to capture more of the flavors that on the day it's distilled are not very palatable. They need to be aged in barrels in order for the flavors to develop and become good. The aging must be done by law in a barrel that can only be used one time. It needs to be made from American white oak, and it needs to be charred on the inside. Well, light whiskey is distilled differently. It's distilled to a higher purity. It's delicious on the day it's made, and it's finished in. It can be finished in either a uncharred oak barrel or in a used whiskey barrel. So Austin 101 is a type of light whiskey. Light whiskey itself is a very broad category, just like Scotch, and there could be numerous different implementations of the spirit. It was created by law in 1968, and it's defined as an American-made whiskey from grain that's distilled to between 160 and 190 proof, which is 80 to 95% pure alcohol. And it's then finished in what can be recycled or used barrels. After it's been finished, it's then proofed down with water. Austin 101 is very specifically made from Texas-grown grains only. The grains that we use are a Texas non-GMO white corn, a red winter wheat from the panhandle, and Texas-grown barley, which is malted in Fort Worth. It was created to be a different kind of experience, one where it's very, very light in color and in flavor, and the grains are the forefront of the flavor experience. We wanted to be able to create a symphony of these Texas wonderful agricultural products that could be enjoyed without being heavily overly oaked, and the flavor can come through. So Austin 101 is it's steam distilled from these Texas grains, and it's distilled to this higher purity. It's then finished in select, mature whiskey barrels. Most of our barrels come from craft premium bourbon makers here in Texas, and we give them an extra life by using them to finish the Austin 101 and impart the light color and the delicious flavors that you'll just soon to experience. Austin 101 was introduced last year at the Texas Whiskey Festival, and at this festival 1,200 people came to try whiskeys from all over Texas. There were 25 different distillers, 65 different types of whiskey were tasted, and we were proudly, happily received the People's Choice Silver Buckle Award for Austin 101. Now it's time to taste it. Before you taste it though, let me remind you that Austin 101 is 101 proof. That's a very high proof spirit. And when you do enjoy it, there's a couple of things that I want to say. It is designed to be enjoyed as a sipping spirit. That's like cognac, more than like bourbon. The high proof means that you want to be careful and be prepared for nosing it. You don't put your nose in it and inhale like you would with wine. If you follow my advice, you would open your mouth slightly and breathe in through both your nose and your mouth to get the full experience. And what you'll notice is a combination of flavors and aromas. You should notice sweetness, vanilla, butterscotch, maybe some toasty notes. Next, I'd like to suggest that you take it and start with small sips because you want to acclimate your palate to the heat of 101 proof. It's going to be warm. So you take a small sip. And once your palate is ready for a slightly larger sip, you'll notice not only the sweetness and those flavor notes that you detected through your nose, but the warm sweetness has a round mouthfeel. When I say round, I mean velvety, silky, soft. Unlike bourbon, which tends to be a little bit sharper in mouthfeel. And by your third sip, you'll be able to swallow it comfortably. And think about what the sensations are after you've swallowed it, how that smooth, warm finish lasts and lingers, and the delicious flavors stay with you for a moment. So, as I said, it was designed to be a sipping whiskey, to be enjoyed on its own, just like this. But it's also great on the rocks, and what we've discovered beyond that is that it makes for wonderful cocktails. It's very, very versatile in cocktails. The flavors are compatible with numerous things that are used commonly in making drinks. It goes very well with citrus fruit, other fruits, cherries, things like that. It goes well with ginger, with spice. And when I say it's versatile, I mean it can be used in many different cocktails and replace the base spirit that's already in it, and create something different and unique and quite delicious. So, for example, Austin 101 can replace vodka, rum, brandy, or whiskeys in numerous cocktails and make something delicious. Now, I'm going to suggest if you look in your package, you've got a little card about Austin 101, and on there is our website address, which is www.austin101whiskey.com. If you visit that website address, there's a whole section on cocktails that we've tried, and we share our recipes with you. Also, if you follow us on Instagram frequently, every week or less, we tend to put a proven delicious cocktail recipe out there for you to try. Now, if you're looking for Austin 101, I'd like to just tell you where to find it. The easiest way to find it is to go to that website and go to a page called Where to Find. We're in a few dozen liquor stores. Thank you for your time. We hope that you'll join us in supporting the local Austin community. Thank you.